we rolling?
Yeah, we're rolling right now.
All right.
Okay. What's up? We won't do the show that way. At least we'll try not to. You know what? It's probably better we just go ahead for it. Go and do it some way. All right. Welcome to Zen Mystery TV. No, that's good.
Okay.
It's fine. It's rock and roll. Everybody's nervous about trying to do this all perfectly and carefully, and I think if you're going to do anything, it's probably not going to go perfectly and carefully.
Okay.
That's just a rock and roll. So this is Zen Mystery TV, and this is the other owner of Zen Mystery. This is Dennis Sukanoff, yes, and last time we had Lena with us. So we're switching up here a little bit. And this is, of course, meditation center and tea house. And wonderful raw food cooks that they are as well. They got a couple goodies always, but we have some interesting topics. And I'm going to let Dennis start with the first topic that he wanted to go with today.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about the article actually Lena wrote a while back. She wrote an article about 5 types of meditation to help you on a spiritual path. Right, so we're going to actually cover 5, and I'm going to let you throw in the number 6.
Okay.
All right.
Let's see if I remember what he said.
So number 5 we're going to do, and actually we do them here because we like it. So that's what
It works out perfect.
That's how we're going to roll. The next week it'll be 8 because we added a few more.
Sounds good.
So we got guided meditation. So for people that are like beginners, they would probably want to start with a guided meditation because it's hard to sit and just do nothing.
Sure.
Because your mind is going to kind of wrap around and not let you really enjoy the silence. So guided meditation, there's a lot of them out there. You know, the new age world is really big on that. So what we do, we have here a shamanic guided, journey guided meditation that we like to do. So it's kind of nice Native American music. And
is that the one, there was somebody who was coming in with a didgeridoo? Is it he?
No, this one actually Lena does it. So she does,
okay.
she puts a CD, Native American music on, and
Wonderful.
she guides them through a journey through nature, and kind of you see your, you pick a animal guide and kind of see how it goes along. But there's a lot of them out there you could do.
Interesting.
Basically, any kind of meditation, you can kind of make it a beginner meditation and guide people through it. I like do it with Vipassana, with Tonglen, and I think you could do it with mindfulness meditation as well. So kind of get a little bit. So you can do some of this older meditation that I'm going to mention actually.
Okay.
So
what do you got?
You can do, so what we got? I got to have a cheat sheet.
It's perfect.
So actually I'm going to go first, the next one, it's the least easy to do, is a mantra meditation. So again, you have a little bit of older Sanskrit language. Which is kind of was designed originally to help you kind of clear your heart, clear your mind, right? So you pick whatever you like. My favorite is Mula Mantra, right? And out of Mula Mantra, there's one last line is Hari Om Tat Sat. I like singing that. It really gets me in a nice open space, kind of open
What's
your heart.
the meaning like behind that? I think it was mentioned the other day by actually somebody that was leading one of the seminars.
Oh yeah, so Hari Om Tat Sat, to me what it means, there's many variation, right?
It's not
where I've seen one of the one I've seen is, and this is the final truth, right? But you can break this word, many words, so it's kind of points to the divine inside and outside. And I think the workshop leader last week, Joan, she was saying, outside, whatever's outside and inside, there's no separation. You know? And this is the final truth.
It's beautiful.
So I would encourage people to look into that mantra. But there is so many mantras. Well, the biggest mantra, the most popular, they call it Maha Mantra, right? Hare Krishna, right?
Right.
We sang Hare Krishna with many people, with Hare Krishna community and New Age community and just the Kirtan community as well. Really get into it. Some people are, it might have a little religious connotation, but it doesn't have to be. You can drop everything, just enjoy the words and enjoy it. And you sing it with a heart. And Sanskrit language is designed a certain way. This actually helps you kind of purify really.
Interesting.
So many out there. The next one, I'll go to I'll go to some meditations that are really old, right? I'll go Vipassana.
The third type?
This third type will be Vipassana, and the fourth type will be Tonglen. So Vipassana is the queen of all meditations, right? The one that goes all the way to Buddha. Probably the easiest one to do, and the hardest at the same time. Right? So I usually recommend for somebody to do something really active, with active yoga class, go run for an hour, then you can really do it. You have to concentrate on your breath at your navel.
Mm-hmm.
They say your kind of seat of your soul is somewhere behind your navel. There, a couple of inches behind. I think what
they talk about that in the Dantian, in Tai Chi, and in Qigong, and Taoist breathing. And it's always like a main focal point. So that's very interesting.
I think they also
the Dantian it stands for a couple different things. One of the most beautiful like translations of it is elixir. It's elixir field or field of energy, or like an ocean of energy. It's the center of the ocean of energy, so to speak.
Yeah, my experience with Tai Chi, and I'm not as experienced as you are. I mean, we probably started about the same time many years ago, but I did it a couple of years and I kind of fell off the wagon. You continued and you got to be a super famous local teacher here. So
just don't come up to me on the street. I think it's weird.
So when you do Tai Chi and you fall into that Dantian and you do it from that point, everything kind of falls into place.
Yes.
So it's an amazing experience doing Tai Chi or Qigong, and you fall into that space. All of a sudden, the movements are so fluid and beautiful. So the next one is Tonglen. This is probably the most difficult meditation for people to kind of accept. And interesting is Tonglen is translated as art of taking and giving. Most people say, "Oh, that doesn't sound cool. I can do that." Well, what do you do? So I tell them, well, what we do is we visualize. It's a visualization exercise. Is we're going to visualize at some point you're going to visualize all the negativity in the world. You're going to take it in and send love. And people freak out. Like, okay, they're like, I don't want any bad stuff in me. So I kind of guide them through it.
Very interesting, because there's a lot of practices, a lot of things that kind of try and whitewash the negative in the world a little bit. Just all love, all, interesting.
So how I explain it,
so transmutation, they're talking about transmutation, so to speak.
Yeah, so what I kind of turn into guided meditation. I explain a little bit in the beginning. So I say, well, first of all, 99.99% of people are not sensitive that way. They cannot take the negativity of the world send love. So it's a purely mental practice. Expand your mind to accept all the craziness going on in the world, and then open your heart and visualize the love. So most people might not be able to do it either, but at least they visualize.
Right.
Create this great feeling. So, and then I tell them that what we're practicing is to be enlightened beings. That's how enlightened beings are. They are. You see this, some of these beings, let's say Amma, that she comes to the U.S. She hugs everybody. She loves everybody. She takes everything in and hugs them and loves them. This is, so what we're practicing is create that cycle of pure, an open space, a compassionate love. So we do it. Most people, I don't know if it's a great for everybody to do, but it's hard you gotta be ready for it.
Yeah.
So the last one is a little more modern. This comes from the 80s. So number 5 is dynamic meditation, more with therapeutic types of meditation.
That's Osho's.
Osho, we both like Osho, and Osho comes a little baggage. So he passed away. So we put the baggage aside and just look at practices in his words, and it's a beautiful practice.
Yeah.
It's a very intense practice. It's a therapeutic meditation. So it's not just meditation where you sit and hope something happens. You actually do some work. It's physical.
Right.
It's physical exercise, different practice. I think there's 5 parts to it. So you do different parts, you cleanse yourself, and then the last part of meditation, you actually sit down and get into the quiet space.
Right.
And I think Osho created many ones. And we're going to try to bring it here.
So you wanted me to jump in with the 6th, huh?
Yeah, number 6. And if you remember any 7, you can do 7, not Tai Chi, use 7.
Well, what I would include in mindfulness actually, which is where we're going with like the 6th, is that the mindfulness meditation, all meditations I think are almost like brothers and sisters to each other. Mindfulness meditation in of itself has to do with taking either the breath, taking a movement, and using that as a focus, to focus your awareness. Now, what's interesting about that is that generally we're not all going to be able to focus. Our minds are going to float around, our emotions are going to take us. So the main center of it, usually they always talk about the focus being that you need to focus on the breath, focus on the movement, and that's going to be it. But I think the main focus for me is in non-judgment of whatever's arising. Because what you're going to need to do is that you're going to need to observe those moments that you fall away from the center and just non-judgmentally just come right back to that point of focus. And that's usually it. Whether or not you're sitting still and using the Dantian, you called it another name. What was the name, or just the navel?
Yeah, just I think it's some tradition called hara, isn't it?
Okay, the hara. That's actually a Japanese tradition.
It's Japanese. I think comes a little bit from Zen tradition.
Yeah. Well, actually, the whole Japanese culture thought that the mind was centered in the belly. Just we are always thinking that the mind was centered in the brain. It's a completely alternate, way of like looking at things.
And I think all the older traditions point to the belly. Chakra system. Now we're talking Dantian in Chinese. Now we're going Japanese hara. So it's all points to the mind. And I mean, everybody knows you get a little freaked out. It's like, oh my God.
Scientifically, actually, what they're finding out is that there's a second brain. There's actually what they're now calling a second brain. That there's actually more nerves, more nerve endings, and more information being processed around the belly than, and a lot of times the mind, which is kind of strange to even think about for even a second. But speaking of that, I actually wanted to talk about the film that was recently watching, talking about mindfulness. I could segue into that. Free the Mind. It was a movie that I was honored actually to be invited and being on the panel with a couple of the experts on meditation and some folks with the Connected Warriors and some folks that do work with children with autism and ADHD. What's going on is that Free the Mind is actually, it's some research by Professor Richard Davidson, who is one of the main brain researchers in the world, and talking about the effects of the mind and potential effects of meditation. So we're back in here. If you see us like in different positions, because we've just cut. We ran out of space on the car. Well, not actually, it was actually ran out of whatever. You get it. We had to edit that out. So I'm going to pick up right where I was. I was talking about the film called Free the Mind. And what it is, it's actually a documentary on mindfulness, because we were just a moment ago talking about the sixth type of meditation, talking about mindfulness itself. Now, what's really fascinating about what happened in the movie is it was about actual research that was done in just a week's time with two veterans from the Iraq wars and with a little boy who suffers from ADHD but also had suffered from traumatic experience. And just really amazing, because what you're looking at as far as what was going on with the two guys is that you're looking at bringing them in and having them focus on a particular type of mindfulness meditation, which is usually the most typical. What it is it's observing your breath. It's simply observing your breath in the Dantian, in the Hara, and observing the breath rising and falling, and trying to see if you can lengthen the breath. Just lengthen the breath to give it just slightly more focus. Now what will happen is that emotions are going to arise and thoughts are going to arise, and what they did is a really great illustration of what was going on with the guys, because there was one guy within the group, because it was like a group of a few guys, including the two main guys that the film was focusing on. And one of the guys in the groups, it was only 3 days in and he was refusing to come back. And what he said is that it was he was fine. He was exercising, he was very functional, he didn't have any major issues. He didn't know he had something to deal with. He kind of felt he was going to be involved in the research because it might help something, but he felt he dealt with everything. And what he noticed is that he actually had everything kind of started to come back, starting to dig up. A lot of things he thought he dealt with were actually rising up during the mindfulness meditation. And it's one thing that I was going to actually, and it's not talked about a lot, but a lot of these meditations will bring up it'll bring up your stuff. It'll bring up the things that you kind of been sweeping under the rug. And you've got to persist past that point. You've got to persist past that point, be non-judgmental about what it is that's arising, and come back. Now, in coming back to what's happening with the movie, is that they showed that the two guys, the two veterans that they're mainly focused on, actually hadn't been able to sleep very well. One of them had to take Ambien every night. There was not a night he couldn't take. He didn't have to take his medication before going to bed, or he wouldn't be able to sleep. And only 7 days in, he showed a 60% to 70% rise in his ability to sleep without the medication, which is actually pretty remarkable, at least for him. That's one of the things that he didn't need it. And that transformed his life in only 7 days. The other guy was very, he seemed very calm, but he actually kept a lot of pent-up anger and never smiled. And all of a sudden you saw him actually transforming it, throughout the film. And the last thing, also a little boy who had this, well, I don't want to give the whole film away, you should watch it. But it's just beautiful, the research that's going on out there.
But they, I guess, brought up the point that it helps with ADHD kids and things like that a lot. So the
It
kids are
did.
able to get into meditative practice.
They can. And the main focus is on one little boy having to do with trauma, because the film had to do with the use of mindfulness to transform the effective traumatic experience. Because it actually starts to physically transform what's happening in the actual brain, is what they were finding out. And I'll let you look at the movie and let them explain, the majority of what was going on. But yeah, I thought that was fascinating. I know we were going to talk about a certain topic we wanted to also bring into some of these shows. We wanted to talk about a certain theme. And I was talking about maybe a theme for the month. We were looking at David Daeda's The Way of the Superior Man. Talking about that first chapter. I almost lost my voice there. I don't know how or why.
Well, yeah, the book is phenomenal. I think I've given away, this book to a lot of people.
I love it.
And some people borrow it and never return it. It's okay.
We give it away, exactly.
Unintentionally give it away. So we wanted to cover in the first chapter that's called, every chapter is a gem. There's nothing, it's amazing. The first chapter is stop hoping for completion of anything in life. So this book, Superior Man, it's really helping. It's all about guys.
It's all about deepening.
Or people with masculine essence.
He's not a macho guy too either. He has a book, for women too.
Yeah,
It's
it's
actually
not a
pretty
macho
beautiful.
thing. Yeah, it's people fall in love with him,
It goes deep.
man and woman. So stop hoping for completion of anything in life. So I'll let you read the beautiful
Want to
passage.
read the beautiful passage?
Yeah, sure.
I didn't know I was going to be reading that. We're cutting into this again. As you'll see us transition from talking, it's probably going to transition right into it. And I think we're reading this and he's complaining about seeing his shoes in the shot. Well, you get crappy shoes, man. They look very comfortable, but come on. They do look futuristic in a weird kind of way.
They look very Japanese.
I don't know
They're
about
not
Japanese.
futuristic.
I don't know about Japanese. They look like Martian.
Martian, okay.
It ain't bad. Martians, it's not to knock any Martians out there. The Martians. Alright. Coming back in here. So, what I was doing is actually I was reading the first page of this chapter of the David Daeda book, The Superior Man. And it's a beautiful book. It at first has a very kind of challenging kind of title, The Superior Man. You kind of look at it it's like some Nazi crap. But actually, it's one of the better modern tantric teachers.
Very accessible.
Oh, super accessible.
Very easy to understand. If you use the principles, I think it's going to really help you out.
He's very sincere. He's very open, and I think he gets to some very deep places in issues that we have. And this is a perfect example. We were talking earlier, and I don't know at what point this cut off, in the middle of this, so I'm going to start from the beginning. But this first chapter of his Way of the Superior Man by David Daeda starts with stop hoping for a completion of anything in life. And this is the passage that it starts with. Most men make the error of thinking that one day it will be done. They think, if I can work enough, then one day I can rest. Or, one day my woman will understand something and then she will stop complaining. Or, I'm only doing this now, that one day I can do what I really want with my life. The masculine error is to think that eventually things will be different in some fundamental way. They won't. It never ends. As long as life continues, the creative challenge is to tussle, play, and make love with the present moment while giving your unique gift. Can you comment on that?
Well, how I see it is, you just got to deepen yourself and be the side.
Yeah, no problem.
Be the center of the hurricane. That's all.
Oh yeah.
The
In
life
Tai
is
Chi,
going to be always a hurricane,
Mm-hmm.
and then you got to figure out how to be in the center.
In Tai Chi philosophy, they talk about moving into Wu Ji. Yeah. And Wu Ji is described as the center of the field of energy. It's something you do with your body, so it's a position that you actually teach in your body for meditation, but it's something that you actually do with your mind primarily, which is to be present.
Yeah, us as, men or people with, as he likes to kind of play, he doesn't like man or woman, he likes to bring it up to masculine essence and feminine essence, because you could be in anybody in that essence, right?
Whether you're,
So,
yeah.
A being with a masculine presence, right, we see things linear, right?
So it could be a woman, it could be either gay man, gay woman, it could be whatever the masculine presence arises in.
So whatever your
right.
essence of your mind.
There's still going to be a polarity. There's going to be a masculine, a yang persona or energy.
You're going to be in the spectrum somewhere in between, but there's a middle and a little more or whatever. So you're somewhere.
Right.
Apparently, majority of people somewhere are masculine or feminine spectrum. Very few people are close to the middle. So when people come to the middle, a lot of time people come to the middle superficially, not realizing that, but in reality they're a little more.
Well, he talks about, actually he does talk a lot about people being almost brainwashed by society to be more in the middle. Yeah.
And it affects
women pulling them towards masculine, men being feminized, etc.
Yeah, so we're probably going to dive into some of the further
masculine being feminized.
Yeah, so we're going to talk later in some of the other chapters. We'll concentrate on this one.
So
we like more linear, right? Yeah. Like, I'm going to get a job, I'm going to get a job, I'm going to get results. But then we apply that into life and relationships, and it doesn't work that way. The universe keeps moving, and things that keep moving, and events are happening. So we kind of got to realize that. Our tendency as a masculine to think that way in a linear way. So
I think the thing that probably caused the most harm along the way is the idea of, and I think he talks about in the last point of that chapter we were looking at, which is that there's no time to waste. That thing, whatever it is that you're waiting to do, you're waiting to become enlightened to be able to do this, or you're waiting to have enough money to be able to do that, or you're waiting to etc. XYZ before you can actually live your life. Yeah, and there is no time to waste. That's what he's getting to.
And he's mentioned in this chapter also that you always have an hour in your life to spend on what you want to do. Like, you don't have to wait. There's an hour, whatever that is. You want to meditate, or you want to start a business, or his whole idea is living on the edge. Not be on the edge, not before that.
It takes us into another, such a topic. I think that whole idea of the edge is fascinating. That takes us in
that's
totally
another 20
minutes. That's another 20 minutes.
The card will run out.
And we've already run out a couple times, as you can see us jumping through this. But I just want to thank you guys for joining us, and take a look at, there's going to be notes on this video and this edition of Zen Mystery TV. And just take a look and let us know what any questions you have or any suggestions for the next show. And I don't know, we'll see if Lena or Dennis shows up next time, and we'll see how things play. But once again, thank you so much for joining us.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Long pause.
Long pause. We pause long, and go ahead and you can hit click. I don't know if I even gave us enough time. Let's see.